John is in a dark place. Figuratively and literally, John is in a dark place. Literally because he's underground in a prison with little or no light. The air is stale and musty. Rats crawling all around him on the dirt or rock floor of his cell. He is in chains so as not to escape this hell. It is likely he knows he will be executed because this time in public he dropped a John the Baptist bomb on Herod the king. In public, he challenged him. And knowing he was about to be executed, and in this physical darkness, physically, he starts to ask big questions. He starts to ask if his perhaps entire life was wasted. He asked if the call he heard once was an illusion or for real. He likely asked if the God of Israel is who he thought him to be. And he asked if what he thought was true about his cousin, Jesus, really was. Or was the initial excitement at baptizing Jesus misguided? Was he just plain wrong? Figuratively, he finds himself in one of those dark places in life. His plans are unraveling. He was scared for his life, and rightly so. Everything he thought his life was about is not coming true. The questions opened up doubts, or was it doubt that opened up those questions? The dark times in all of our lives make us ask those kinds of questions. It is a rare person I've ever accompanied to death who did not wonder the same questions, no matter how strong their faith might have been. I remember once in one of my parishes a sweet, sweet lady who was dying way before her time. She had 2 sons, one in high school, one in college. She was what anybody would call a devout Catholic. Regular Mass attendance every Sunday without missing, and volunteerism around the parish and out there in the neighborhood. And when I went to visit her for the last time, I thought she was in a coma while I was there. But after a while, she opened one eye, and she looked for me in the room. And she asked me, "Are you sure there's a heaven?" In these dark places, we revisit everything. Right now, take note. Take note of the literal darkness that surrounds us here. Literally, we are in the dark. Notice the darkness. And figuratively, if we have not already, we will someday find ourselves sitting in the darkness. And when we do, we will begin to wonder, who am I? Why am I here? What is my life for? How do I want to spend the rest of my life? Where should it be that it's not? What did I miss? Jesus, was I wrong about you? Was I wrong about God? Mark my word, my friends. It's your answer in the darkness, way more than your answer in the light, that will define who you are for the rest of your life. It is your answer in the darkness, way more than your answer in the light, that will define who you are and the rest of your life. And take note of Jesus' response to John. Those who follow John bring John's questions from that dark place to Jesus. They're probably really concerned for their friend and their teacher down there, not just in the darkness of a stone underground prison, but in a real darkness of his heart and his mind, those affecting everything about him. One would think that as soon as Jesus heard, you would think that he would hear his friend was in trouble. He would have dropped everything and gone to him, rushed to him to visit him in prison. One would think Jesus would have done that. He didn't. And one would think Jesus would have answered the question John's disciples brought to Jesus. Are you the one? Was I wrong? Are you him? One would think Jesus would have sent back a simple, clear answer. Yes, yes, John. You were right all the time. But Jesus didn't go to John in prison, and Jesus didn't send back a clear yes to John's question, because he knew what John could bear, and he knew what would lead John to the right answer inside himself and not from the outside of himself. This time, in this darkness, he had to figure it out. But Jesus could strike a match, at least. While he had to figure it out for himself, Jesus could say to him, John, don't take my word for it. You look around. Look around even from there, even from that dark place. Look around and look for the light. Look for the light. Look for what you can see with your own eyes, that people who couldn't walk are walking, and people who couldn't see are seeing, and people who are giving up hope now have hope. Look around at people who couldn't walk, who are walking, not just walking, but running. John, see it for yourself and put it together. You can do this, John. You can see it even from that dark place. My friend, he could say to him, you look for the light. My friends, as dark as it gets around us, even within us sometimes, if we sit in the dark long enough, we will begin to see here and there tiny little sparks of light. Look there around you at those tiny flames dancing all around you in the dark, literally in the dark. Let your eyes rest on one of those tiny flames. And then look there at whatever around you might be a spark of light. Look at those students going away over winter break, spending their hard-earned winter holiday, not partying, not sleeping, as most of his friends, her friends will be doing these days of break, sleeping in late into the morning and partying late into the night, feasting on foods prepared by the family. That won't be your break. That won't be their break. They'll be getting up early. They'll be living among folks in a desperate and unsafe world and learning, every day learning about a culture so not like theirs. Look there at them. And look through that darkness to the light that shines in those who you know who have not given up. And your friends who are fighting for their lives against oppression and sickness and addiction and divorce and not being able to conceive a child. Look through all those things, and whatever keeps anybody in chains, anything that seems to block the joy, look at them and how they haven't given up. Look at that tiny little light flickering in the dark. No matter the darkness, there's a light that is bright enough to pull you through your own night, through your own cynicism, no matter the darkness in which we find ourselves, there are still reasons for joy, as tiny as those flickering little flames around you right now. There are reasons for joy that call us through the night, however weakly, and reach for the light. That's what we say to people who are dying. And if you haven't, I wish you could see how it seems their eyes begin to fix then, hearing those words, begin to fix then on something or someone far away and yet right in the room. I've seen that tiny light so often over my years as a priest. I am not sure what to make of that. But one thing I know is that when it comes time for my last breath, I hope someone says to me, "Gary, reach for the light." And not just in my last breath, but in every breath. I want to find myself reaching for the light.